So what would actually happen if Vancouver real estate were to finally crash like everyone has been talking about for the last 40 years? That's what I'm talking about in this video. I'm going to talk about all the things that would take place if that crash ever did happen. And in the end of the video, I'm going to be giving you guys the result of all of those things taking place. So stick around. So what would happen? Well, number one, there's quite a bit of demand right now as it stands at 6.5% interest rates. So what do you think the Bank of Canada is going to do the second they see massive weakness in the markets and the economy? They're probably going to drop the interest rate. So that's tool number one in the safety box. And, being that there's a decent amount of demand right now, imagine how much more demand that there would be if they dropped interest rates 1, 2, possibly even 3%. They've got the space to do that. They could drop interest rates as high as 3% if they absolutely needed to. Now, I'm not saying they're going to. I'm just saying that this is now a tool that they have in their toolbox that they've afforded themselves if the market were to crash. The second thing that they could do is they could abolish the stress test. So if you guys don't know, like right now, if you get a mortgage at say 6% fixed, you have to get approved at 8%. So any buyer who's buying a home right now, even though they're paying 6%, they can't get a mortgage unless they can afford that same mortgage at 8%. So technically, it really opens up the buyer pool and increases the buyer pool if they get rid of that 2% stress test rate. So they could completely abolish the stress test. They could lower it 1%, whatever it may be. And sure, it may not add the same amount of buyers as if interest rates were actually 1% or 2% lower, but it would increase the buyer pool. It just wouldn't be an apples to apples comparison. But that's just another tool that they've got in their toolbox to play with if they absolutely need it. And thirdly, banks. It's their asses on the line if the market were to crash. I've got 20% invested in the property. They've got 80% invested in the property. So banks don't want the market to crash just as much as everybody else. And what they would likely do if the market did crash is they would increase mortgage amortizations to 35 to 40 years from a max of 30, which if you went from a 30 to 40 year amortization, I don't know the exact math, but I'm guessing your payment would probably go down like, I don't know, if you had a $700,000 mortgage, it'd probably go down like over $1,000 a month. So it'd be pretty substantial. Not only that, it would allow buyers to qualify for a mortgage a lot easier as well if they were offering those amortization to people who are buying homes, not just people who already owned homes. But it obviously just depends on what they decide to do. Either way, that's just another tool that they have to prop up the market if they need it. And on top of all of these tools they have to come in and be Superman and save the market, we also have the large gleaming factor that there's just way less homes than there are people who want to buy homes here. And now every month, the building permits are going down and they're increasing immigration targets, making that supply-demand imbalance even worse as time goes on. And a crash is definitely not going to help that because developers are going to completely stop building. There'll probably be projects that don't get built at all in that case, and immigration isn't going to stop. So I don't think it would be very hard for the market to absorb new inventory coming on from a crash, from people forced selling and all that stuff, just because of immigration. And especially if prices are going to be lower and then, the bank comes in and makes it easier to qualify for a mortgage and the government makes it easier to qualify for a mortgage and the prices are lower, I think there's going to be a new wave of demand found at that point in the economy if real estate prices were to drop pretty fast. So I'm never one to say that a crash is impossible. We're always at risk of a crash. But I'm just not sure we would be able to keep this market down for a long, drawn-out period of time given the basic supply and demand dynamics happening within this market. There's just not a lot of homes being built and a ton of people moving here. And at the end of the day, when we talk about inventory, a lot of people would like to talk about price to income ratios and all this stuff. Listen, if there's 5 homes in Vancouver and 10 million people who want to live here, the average price of a home is going to be $150 million, right? Do you get what I'm saying? So it always just comes down to supply and demand. If there's not enough supply and a bunch of demand, the prices can stay elevated. The price for a commodity is technically, well, it wouldn't be infinite, but who knows how high it could go if there's barely any of them available, but everybody needs it. So I think what would happen here, what would likely happen, is we would see what they call in technical analysis in the stock market and the crypto market as a V correction. Bow, bow. I think prices would go down pretty quickly, but they would also retrace pretty much just as quickly as they went down, because the second prices started going down fast, the banks would come in, BOC would lower interest rates, blah, blah, blah. And then not only prices would be lower, but it would also be easier to qualify for a mortgage. And not even just that, like people are buying homes at 6.5%. Like demand is pretty strong right now at 6.5%. So imagine if prices fell 20% and then interest rates were also going down. Like I don't think it would take very long for the market to be propped back up. I think they've got a lot of tools to play with. I think there's a lot of people who want to buy a home here. And that's my opinion. Could end up being wrong. But if you thought the concept in the video was cool, subscribe to the channel, like this video. I'm That Agent Kelly, and as always, sorry, let me repeat that. I'm That Agent Kelly, and as always, I'm making moves to move you. Peace.